Hey guys, I'm excited to share this Macraweave tutorial with you today. I received a lot of questions asking how to incorporate ribbons, rovings, yarns, etc. into your work, and today I'm going to show you one way to do that. The finished piece measures 32 inches wide by 37 inches long. To complete this project you will need an assortment of supplies. Please see the description for a list of all the materials required. All of these supplies are available in my Etsy shop or on my website. Please see the description for links to purchase. The main material required to create the base of your project is 4mm rope in the color mustard. You will need approximately 436 feet of rope. For those new here, I always include written instructions in the description which are identical to the verbal instructions. Head on over if you'd like a written copy of my instructions. If you're enjoying my tutorials, it would really help me out if you could like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for all of your support. Let's get started. Cut 5 4-foot pieces of 4mm rope. Set aside. Cut 32 13-foot pieces of 4mm rope. Fold each piece in half and attach to your driftwood using a lark's head knot. Grab one 4-foot piece of rope to use as your filler cord and tie a row of 64 double half hitch knots. Start your knots approximately 5.5 inches down from the bottom of your driftwood. Tie your knots on a curve so that the last knot in the row measures approximately 4.5 inches down from the driftwood. As you tie your knots, you might need to adjust them slightly so that your knots sit in line with the cords running down your work. This will help you keep your work straight and not slant one way or the other. Leave the ends of your filler cords for now. We will tuck them into the back of our work at the end of this tutorial. Start on the left and tie 16 square knots across your work. Tie 12 alternating square knots across your work. Tie 10 alternating square knots across your work. As you go, you might need to adjust your knots slightly so that there is no tension along your work. This will prevent your work from warping and help to keep the sides of your work straight. Grab another 4-foot piece of rope to use as your filler cord and tie another row of 64 double half hitch knots across your work. Your knots should be tied underneath the square knots. This is approximately 7.5 inches down from the driftwood on the left and approximately 6 inches down from the driftwood on the right. Tie another row of 64 double half hitch knots. Start your double half hitch knots 10 inches down from the driftwood and end 12.5 inches down from the driftwood. Start on the left and tie 16 square knots across your work. Tie a row of 15 alternating square knots. Tie a row of 16 alternating square knots. Skip 18 cords on the left and tie 11 alternating square knots. Skip 36 cords on the left and tie 7 alternating square knots. Tie another row of 64 double half hitch knots. Your knots should be tied underneath the square knots. This is approximately 12.5 inches down from the driftwood on the left and 16 inches down from the driftwood on the right. Tie one more row of 64 double half hitch knots. Start and end your double half hitch knots 23 inches down from the driftwood. Now comes the fun part. You can fill in the sections however you'd like using whatever supplies you have on hand, or follow along to learn how and what supplies I used to create this piece. A couple of notes: work from the bottom up to fill in each section. The measurements outlined below are for roving the eye supply, which is about 2 inches thick. I note this as we move along, but I'll mention it here too. The roving is split in half to create 1 inch thick pieces that are woven into this piece. The velvet ribbon I am using for this piece is 2 inches thick. 1 inch or 2 inch ribbon will work here. We will go back and tuck in the ends at the end of this video, so just leave them for now. We will start with this section between the 4th and 5th rows of double half hitch knots. Start on the left side of your work for this section. Cut an 8-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color Artichoke and a 7-foot piece of 2-ply art yarn in the color Taupe. Follow along as I tie raya knots here to create loops. The loops hang between 3 and 7 inches below the 5th row of double half hitch knots. Attach a second raya knot about 1/3 of the way across your work. Attach a 3rd raya knot on the right side of your work. Attach a 4th raya knot 1/3 of the way back across your work. Attach a 5th raya knot on the right side of the 1st raya knot. Attach the art yarn using the same method. If your yarn has some kinks in it, don't worry too much. After you add the yarn, you can let it hang, and usually the creases come out on their own, or you can use a steamer to get rid of the creases. Attach one more raya knot on the right side of your work and then work back across to the left. Here's what it should look like. Once I finished the other sections, I went back and added one more 8-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color caramel. Here's what it looks like. Feel free to add that in using the same method as we did for the other 2 sections, or leave it as is. Cut an 8-foot piece of mustard roving. Split it in half. Use sumac weave to complete 2 rows by bringing your roving in front of 8 cords and then behind 4. Continue this process across your work. Here is how I change directions to work my way back across my work. End one piece and start another piece in the back of your work. Continue this process across your work. Cut a 4-foot piece of mint roving and split it in half. Use sumac weave to complete one row. Continue this process across your work. Cut a 6-foot piece of hand-painted green velvet ribbon and use sumac weave to complete one row. Continue this process across your work. Cut a 10-foot piece of 2-ply art yarn in the color taupe and complete 3 rows of plain or tabby weave. Weave the yarn behind and then in front of 2 cords. I find it easiest to weave the yarn through your work if you bunch it up as I've done here. Cut a 10-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color caramel and tie several running rye knots about 2/3 of the way across your work. Bring your ribbon around the right side of 2 cords to create a loop and then pull the ribbon on the left side of your work through the loop. Pull the loop tight by pulling on the ribbon on the right. Cut a 4-foot piece of teal roving and split it in half. Use sumac weave to complete 2 rows, but only weave your roving halfway across your work. I decided to add only 1 loop here instead of 2, which is what we did with the mustard roving, before working my way back across my work. Feel free to add 1 or 2 loops here. Cut an 8-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color taupe and complete 2 rows of plain or tabby weave. I went ahead and completed the other 2 sections using the same methods that I showed you in the first section. I'll explain how I did this and what materials I used. Cut a 4-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color caramel and attach it to the right side of your work using rye knots, 2 on the left and 1 on the right. Cut a 2-foot piece of mint roving and split it in half. Use sumac weave to complete half a row on the right side of your work. Cut an 8-foot piece of hand-painted green velvet and use sumac weave to complete 1 row across your work. Cut a 5-foot piece of burgundy roving and split it in half. Starting on the right side of your work, use sumac weave to complete 2 rows, but only weave your roving 2/3 of the way across your work. Cut a 6-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color taupe and tie several running rye knots about 1/3 of the way across your work. Cut an 8-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color taupe and complete 2 rows of plain or tabby weave. Cut a 3-foot piece of mustard roving and split it in half. Use sumac weave to complete 1 row about 2/3 of the way across your work. Cut a 7-foot piece of cotton frizz ribbon in the color artichoke and tie several running rye knots starting on the right side of the mustard roving and finishing on the right side of your work. Cut a 5-foot piece of hand-painted green velvet ribbon and use sumac weave to complete a row above the mustard roving. Cut a 12-foot piece of 2-ply art yarn in the color taupe and complete 3 rows of plain or tabby weave. Tuck the ends of the roving into 1 or 2 loops of roving at the back of your work and cut off the excess. If you're worried about it coming undone, you can always add a dab of glue to the inside of the loop to secure it in place. For all loose pieces of ribbon and yarn, wrap the end around to the back of your work and add a dab of glue to secure it at the back, then cut off the excess ribbon. I found that this is the best and easiest way to secure the ends that isn't visible from the front of your work. For the ends that are already at the back of your work, like this second piece of ribbon here, add a dab of glue to the ribbon and attach it to a couple of filler cords, then cut off the excess ribbon. For all velvet ribbon, untuck the ends and add a dab of glue to the back of your work to secure the end in place. Cut off the excess ribbon. This method will also work for the ends of the roving at the sides of your work, or you can use the method we used previously to tuck the ends into the loops of the roving at the back of your work. There are 2 ways to hide the ends of your filler cords. You can either thread the ends through the back of your work as I've done here, skip the first knot and thread the end through the back of the second and third knots, then cut off the excess. The other method would be to cut the filler cord off right next to the last double half hitch knot and then add a dab of glue to the end to secure it. Bring the end of the ribbon and yarn used to create the rye knots to the back of your work and thread them through a couple loops at the back and then cut off the excess. Again, glue can be used here if you're worried about it coming undone. Cut the ends of your work however long you'd like and in whatever shape you'd like. I've cut mine straight across and about 1 foot down from the last row of double half hitch knots. I also unraveled the ends of the rope. A few of the cords I unraveled the entire way up to the last row of double half hitch knots to add in a bit more texture here. Thanks so much for watching.